Thank you very much.
Senator Blumenthal.
Thank you, Ranking Member Durbin. Thank you, Ranking Member Raskin, for bringing us together. Great idea to have you here. Which of you would like to change jobs with me? You know, I did your job in Connecticut.
Yes, you did.
For 20 years. My youngest child of 4, my daughter, once asked me when she was very little whether I was going to be the eternal general. I love the job, and I don't need to tell you, it is so important now what you are doing. I just want to say thank you. You're the firewall, you're the bulwark, you are the enforcers that will help save our democracy. That is certainly no exaggeration, and there are days when I miss that job. Don't tell Attorney General Tong.
Our secret.
But I want to ask you a question that is spurred by a rally that I literally just attended for parents who have lost loved ones to suicide or other problems related to social media, the toxic content that is driven by certain social media sites. And my question is partly about that phenomenon. We have a measure here, it's called the Kids Online Safety Act. I've championed it with Senator Blackburn. It passed the Senate in the last session by a vote of 91-3, very bipartisan. We hope to pass it again in the Senate and then get it through the House. But my question is about the impact of social media as you see it in empowering the fringe groups that espouse violence, in spawning and spreading hate and friction. I know this is a somewhat vague question, and we're taught as trial lawyers, never ask a question if you don't know what the answer is going to be. But I think it would be very useful to get your perspective on how social media, as much as it can be a benefit to all of us, also can be a source of the divisions, the frictions, and sometimes the violence in our society.
Well, Senator, first of all, thank you for your 2 decades as an AG. Is still a legend in our caucus. I won't tell Tong, though. I think I'd speak for all of us. This is outside of the context of we're talking about suing people who cause harm to our state, including the president. I don't think anybody's causing more harm right now to a generation of kids than social media companies. It's one of the few things that generates genuine bipartisan agreement across AGs. 50 states are on the lawsuits we filed against TikTok and Meta. Just recently, I sued Discord, which is devastating a generation of young kids. This is like tobacco in the 70s and 80s. This is the equivalent of Joe Camel to kids. And I do worry that this administration, given their views on how the federal government can use its authority, given the change in what the Supreme Court has said with respect to agency deference, that they're going to have fewer tools, even if they wanted to use them, and I don't think they want to use them. And it dovetails with what we're talking about, because as has been said about political violence, as can be said about what we've seen with respect to organizing real harms in our states, so much of it happens on social media. And yes, notwithstanding Section 230, these sites all have terms of service. They all make promises to the general public about harms they're going to protect people from, and then they don't do it. That's the core of our lawsuits, which, as you know, is a tried and true consumer protection theory. So I think I speak for all of us when I say it is a cause that we all care deeply about, and it's devastating a generation of young kids.
Senator, if I just may add, the work we also do in Massachusetts is complementing this multi-state bipartisan lawsuit against these social media companies. I just recently had to submit testimony in our state legislature for what we call the Study Act, a bill that would ban cell phones in school during the school day, but not just to ban cell phones, but because we have been seeing not just social media apps in the context of mental health issues, but the uptick in bullying and harassment in some egregious cases where young people are using the social media apps in their phones during school. And then we expect teachers or educators to police that. But in the same legislation, we recognize that litigation can take a really long time. So we're also holding social media companies accountable within that state legislation, recognizing we may not get those remedies through our lawsuits as soon as we can. And I think there's an appetite in the State House because folks want to know what can they do in the midst of this Trump accountability work to still move the needle forward on issues that are just as important. And that, of course, includes social media companies and holding them accountable through a state vehicle.
May I say,
General?
Senator, if it wasn't for some of these social media platforms, the epidemic of auto theft among certain brands probably never would have happened. I mean, there's two particular brands that are the target of choice for car thieves, right? You all know what they are, Kia, Hyundai, right? But it took, social media to teach kids how to hotwire one of them with a UBS cord, and numbers all over the country, 800% increase in auto thefts, so I mean, that's just one little slice, and I worry that because our federal government is not the partner it used to be, quite honestly, that's one of the byproducts of all of this, is that I believe we used to be able to go to them and say, hey, let's team up and work on this. They're increasingly not available, and they're the ones with the resources who can really bring results forward. So thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Senator, if I may, I think you hit it on the nail. As AG Platkin pointed out, we have come together, and it's one place where we can come together focusing on social media's harms to youth, but the reality is it doesn't stop at youth. The misinformation on social media has us where we are today, and unless we as a country, and I don't know that it's legal response, but unless we can find a way to wrap our arms around this, I don't know what the end of this is.
Yeah, I want to just say finally, I appreciate your courage and conviction in pursuing the litigation, bipartisan litigation. And the comparison to big tobacco is unmistakable. Both doing harm, both having a business model that thrives on addiction, both aware of the harm and denying it. And with big tobacco, the big breakthrough for us was discovery. Good old-fashioned discovery. Documents that showed not only did they know about the harm they were doing, they were destroying the evidence. The research they did themselves that showed the harm that they were doing. And one of the differences is that big tech companies do have a degree of immunity, but you're showing how you can get around it. And big tobacco thought it was immune as well. They had never settled a case. They had never lost a case. The Department of Justice of the United States didn't want to take action against big tobacco, partly because of the legal obstacles, partly because of the political hurdles. And so I thank you for standing up for the consumers, the children and families of America in what you're doing, which is in the great tradition of state attorneys general. Thank you.